I don't know how many of you guys actually saw the whole town hall.
No way in hell.
The nice thing about this clip is that it shows us both like what Biden said, and it also shows us the way that the media responds to it. So
we need student loan forgiveness beyond the potential $10,000 your administration has proposed. We need at least a $50,000 minimum. What will you do to make that happen?
I will not make that happen.
Okay, so does anyone want to respond to just that part of the clip before we get into the media's defense of it?
Big cojones on that one.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice.
He is
stuck to his guns. Right?
Unapologetically Biden.
Yeah.
He's held that position for like months since campaign, I guess, right? $10,000, nothing more, nothing less.
It's really interesting. He really does seem to be like the left or the liberals version of Trump. Like he's just willing to say it right to your face. No, I'm not going to give you that, and just keep it pushing. And he does that a lot. So
it's what you can do when you have the faithful commitment of the party, and when you know there's nothing that will ever sway anyone from voting for you and supporting for you, no matter what. Those are balls that Democrats handed to him on a platter. Like we all, we collectively we gave him those balls. Those are our.
I mean, some of us tried to snip away at them, but yeah.
Also,
congratulations, America.
Has he ever said nothing less? Because I know he said nothing more, but I feel like less is always on the table with him.
Oh, I mean, it's on the table, definitely.
True, yeah.
But I think the less has been like 10,000, but maybe not executive action and trying to pass it through legislation. And if he does that, then, kiss that goodbye.
Also, that's means tested as well. It's 10,000. I think the upper income limit is $125,000 a year. And I think there might be some other Kamala style hoops to jump through. You got to start a small business in a disadvantaged community, which you luck out. That's the whole country now.
One of my friends was telling me, if people are so insistent on how you earn what you work hard for, and billionaires work hard, then why do we means test all the time? Like, just let them have it. If let rich people have the money and also let poor people have it. Like, what's the point of doing rigorous means testing when we already throw away so much money, in subsidies or in handouts to wealthy individuals?
Yeah, I thought that this clip, if we keep playing it, Nick, it's just a good way because Bree, you said that it was the Democratic Party that enabled Biden, but it's also it takes a couple to tango, and without the media, without the extremely compliant media, he also wouldn't have the freedom to say things as kind of things that should be disqualifying, right?
Let's discuss Paul Begala. This is the first real test of Biden, the more moderate Democrat, facing off against the more progressive elements in his party. And Schumer is standing with the progressives.
Yeah, and, he needs to understand that Joe Biden has the support in the Gallup poll of 98% of Democrats. Biden is more popular among Democrats than Trump ever was among Republicans. And we obsess about the Trump base, and it's interesting, and they're important people, and we want to learn from that. But Biden's got 98% of his party. And so I think he's in full command of his party. And we're so used to a president who does nothing but pander to his base. Here's Joe Biden. The base does want this $50,000 debt forgiveness. And Biden says, no, I'm not going to do it. And by the way, he's prioritizing things like COVID relief, like 11 million people have lost their jobs, like 14 million children who are experiencing what the demographers call food insecurity, which means kids are going hungry. And, I think President Biden wants to do something about student debt, but I think he's exactly right on the merits, but he's also right on the politics.
45.3 million Americans have student debt. He was talking about 11 million. The 11 million number that Paul just threw out there, apparently he doesn't see that as an overlapping group of people who might be struggling during COVID and might also be part of the 43 million people that are student debt holders.
It's almost like he doesn't know a lot of people who fall into either of those categories.
I am so angry.
Joe Biden said, his people like his kids, he has to cut himself off, right? Because he was very close to saying, my kids can go to Ivy League schools. People like my kids should be able to go because I can pay for it. Everybody else, I have something for you, free community college. How about that?
Yeah. And Biden kids actually did go to expensive schools. His daughter went to Tulane, which I got accepted into, but couldn't afford to go to. Almost like the same year too, and those clips make me so angry. I'm so angry. I like almost want to look up the terms of service of YouTube just to make sure I don't say things like I should. I'll just chill. I'll just chill. But the fact of the matter, like, first of all, that version of the clip you have doesn't show the fact that Biden lies about how he. Are you going to bring? If you're going to
Yeah,
bring
I'm
that up
looking
later.
for that.
The full clip of him answering a question, he lies. He straight up lies to the woman and American people about what he can do in a way that makes no sense. The way he says, I'm doing 10K, but I'm not doing 50K because I can't do it. If you can do 10K, you can do 50K, or you can do it all. Yep. And I did want to mention that guy framed it as the progressive wing, but versus the main Democrat wing. No, the Warren wing are the people who came up with the 50K bullshit. From what I understand, there was somebody saying we should do all student debt, and we could do all student debt, not 50K. So now, like, Biden is able. We are begging now for the 50K instead of asking for the whole thing, and then we're going to get 10K and probably less. And this is the game. This is how the game works, and it happens with everything. It happened with 2K which was supposed to be 2K every month retroactive to 2K to 1400 to who knows, they're on vacation now. It is so incredibly infuriating, and this this fucking twerp on CNN sitting there, and all he talks about is like, well, Biden's really up in the polls, so that means his policy is good.
It's even more limited than that, by the way. I just Googled it because this was a very frustrating reality during the campaign, that the difference between Warren's plan and Bernie's plan were collapsed. And Bernie's plan often was erased entirely. People didn't even know there was an option of a person who was going to cancel all student debt. But Biden's plan is even worse than advertised. A quick Google reveals Biden recommends canceling federal student debt in the following instances. If you attended a public college or university, so private schools out, including the biggest debt holders, who are people who attended those for-profit degree mills where they've paid out the bottom for these awful degrees that don't even give them incremental advantages in the workplace. If you use the loans for an undergraduate tuition, so sorry for people who incurred debt in the course of their graduate studies, the demographic group that is most burdened by undergraduate debt would be Black women.
Straight white men. Oh, sorry.
Right. Black women are the most overeducated group in the country, degree-wise. And then also, as I mentioned before, Biden's plan phases out at $125,000 a year, but does not offer further details.
And Bree, I just want to say a brief point, because if anybody's on this chat, if you start talking about these people who you think are on your side, will start telling you, no. If we relieve all student debt, that will mostly benefit rich people. They'll start citing numbers like, well, the top 40% of income earners own 60% of debt. Since when did we care about the top 40% of the country? I thought it was the top 1% that had all the money, not the top. So they like people, like everyone who says like we shouldn't relieve student debt and says, oh, it disproportionately benefits rich people, they are absolutely positively lying to you. I got into like a intense discussion with one of these like think tank ghouls that was posting like I forget exactly what he was saying, but he was basically trying to make the argument that if we give the student debt away, all these doctors or lawyers will be able to pay it off, and it mostly benefits them because they will get more of the money to pay it off. But I'm like, wait a minute, if you're a doctor or a lawyer, you don't give a shit if you get if you're a high-paid doctor or lawyer, you might not give a shit as much as someone who has a smaller loan but has less money generally. So if you owe $20K and you work retail, like a lot of people do, who have college degrees, but you're a lawyer, but you're a doctor and you have $100K, yeah, the doctor will get more money. Totally, but that money is not the same to both those people. That will change.
It matters more to the other person. Yeah. Besides which, if you want more doctors actually working in your working class community instead of leaving to go become, a dermatologist in New York, they would benefit them not to have $200,000 of debt hanging over them. One of my good friends is a dentist who has to go and work in an elite practice because she has $400,000 of debt. I have another friend who's a journalist who many people know. I'm not going to say her name because I'm not trying to blow up her spot. But she did come on Here with the Burn and talk about how she's a Black woman, $75,000 in debt. She went to law school, is a public interest attorney, knows she's never going to pay it off, just pays the minimum for the rest of her life, but knows that she has a lot of difficulty moving careers, getting credit, ever thinking that she could save enough to buy a house. Because if you save anything, suddenly your obligations to pay back more debt shift, right? So there are all of these incentives not to actually spend money in an economy in a way that is more beneficial more broadly.
Well, and I have the Fuller clip if we want to watch it, because this kid, Paul Begala, who, by the way, I mean, I'm not going to make any comments about appearances or anything, but just like, get a better powder because it's terrible. You look like you're made out of a pancake or something.
No, that's fair. TV
that's
makeup,
fair.
That's fair game.
That's fair game.
Criticizing
that's fair game.
TV
and the hair dye. Anyway.
Loans are crushing my family, friends, and fellow Americans.
Me too.
The American dream is
I'm
to
kidding.
succeed, but how can we fulfill that dream when debt is many people's only option for a degree? We need student loan forgiveness beyond the potential $10,000 your administration has proposed. We need at least a $50,000 minimum. What will you do to make that happen?
I will not make that happen. It depends on whether or not you go to a private university or a public university. It depends on the idea that I say to a community, I'm going to forgive the debt, the billions of dollars of debt for people who have gone to Harvard and Yale and Penn and schools my children. I went to a great school. I went to a state school. But is that going to be forgiven rather than use that money to provide for early education for young children who come from disadvantaged circumstances? But here's what I think. I think everyone, and I've been proposing this for 4 years, everyone should be able to go to community college for free. For free. That costs $9 billion, and we should pay for it. And the tax policies we have now, we should be able to pay for it. You spend almost that much money as a break for people who own racehorses. And I think any family making under $125,000 whose kids go to a state university they get into, that should be free.
This he always sets arbitrary numbers for like middle class. Like it used to be 400,000. And then with the stimulus, it's 75. Now it's 125. They can't afford. I think they can't figure it out. They just throw out a number, go from there. And then this other idea that it has to be either student debt or paying for, early education. And he says it's $9 billion, and we're going to act like $9 billion and $60 billion to just make all public university free is such a huge jump, especially when we pay $740 billion a year on the military. And then the fact that he gets applause, there's so much in that clip that is just so infuriating. And like Briahna was saying earlier, he's talking about, oh, my kids can go to these colleges, but I went to a state. It's funny when he catches himself, and I think we'll talk about it later. He's like, I'll get in trouble for this, but I'm going to say it anyway. But
It's
that's
the smartest moments.
It's the Biden brand, and that's when he's about to sell you some BS.
It
I
takes
think a
a
problem
truly monstrous person, by the way, to do that. To try to dissuade you from paying off all of the student debt by dangling child welfare in front of you as though it's an either or. A truly monstrous thing to do.
Yes.
Yeah, pretending to be. T.
No, I was just gonna say, no one ever talks about really wealth either. It's just income. So it's like this whole idea of social mobility and all this stuff. You might be somebody who went to Harvard, Yale, or Princeton, or one of those things, but you might be the first person that went to college in your family or something. It's weird when he puts up people like my kids who went to those schools. First off, I'm sure they didn't take out a single loan. I don't know why he's even bringing them up, but I'm sure he comes from a certain amount of, even if it's not like blue blood generational wealth, I'm sure it's a lot more generational wealth than a lot of Black people have had, even if it's middle class generational wealth. So
we can't use these stats like black people have a nickel to every dollar that white people have and then just pretend that goes away when we're talking about middle class Joe. The whole point is that even working class, middle class white people have 10 times more wealth than middle class black people. Yep. So black people on average have negative wealth in large part because we all have student debt coming out of our ears. He might think he was hard up because he had to like put a second mortgage on the house to take out loans. And that sucks. I don't want people to have to do that. But also, we don't have mortgages. Yeah. We didn't get the benefit of that, of these post-World War II loans. We were redlined out of all of those benefits. We didn't have grandparents who went to college on the GI Bill. Okay? Like, this is real.
And black people have more people to take care of when they make money. It's not like his kids have nothing to do but take care of themselves.
Yes.
Or much extra off him. You know what I mean? But you might be a black person, you're the first person to go to private school, make 6 figures, but you know, you got to pay off that debt. You got to take care of your parents when they're old.
Yes.
You have
My
other
mom's
people in your
paying off her
family
own
expecting
debt.
money.
Yeah. Imagine getting money from your grandmother. Are you kidding me? The money's flowing in the opposite direction. Yep. Happily, we're happy to do it, but it's so perverse to try to dangle like 0.0001% of the population when folks are literally drowning, and the people who are drowning the most are frankly black women who without whom Joe Biden wouldn't even be president of the United States. And Kamala's corny behind is sitting there watching it all transpire and not saying a GD word. It's unconscionable.
Yeah. I like there was that big New York Times article that everybody got wild and excited about that talked about black wealth and how black millionaires lose it in a generation. Black millionaires lose it in a generation. Like half of them, like you lose it in a generation. So like we have nothing. Like I look around, even people who have jobs, similar to mine, pay less than mine, whatever. Like if they're white, they're gonna have more. Like they because they've had those benefits. Their parents were able to make them a down payment on the first house, or give them a house, or they got it from their grandparents, or they inherit something when their grandma dies. Like I when my father died, I got me and my sister split $10K that includes the funeral expenses that he got from being a veteran. That's it. That's all. Like that's it. Like my father worked his entire life, and had pretty much nothing at the end to show for it. He was left nothing when his parents passed, and he comes from like a coal mining family, like the people who were like powering the country in Kentucky. We just have nothing to show for it. And things like relieving student debt, the whole point was that this was supposed to help. This was, as you said when you were in the campaign, like this would change the lives of so many people just to have this burden lifted from them, so that even if you're just like someone who just wants people spending money in the economy, well, like this helps. Like, but these people like don't care. And it's so infuriating that this is just talked about in terms of like hypothetical white doctors who just forget to pay off their student loans because instead of like freeing millions of black women from like debt, this onerous debt that is preventing them from doing anything.